Elon Musk is now worth more than $1 trillion. Let that sink in for a moment. Not 1 billion, not 100 billion, 1 trillion. When headlines announced that Elon Musk's net worth had crossed the $1 trillion mark, millions of people around the world reacted with shock. Some were inspired, some were impressed, others were angry, but almost everyone made the same mistake. They focused on the number, not the lesson, because the real story isn't that Elon Musk became a trillionaire. The real story is how he got there. And hidden inside that story is one of the most important wealth lessons you'll ever learn. A lesson that separates people who spend their entire lives chasing money from people who build lasting wealth. Most people grow up believing a simple formula: work hard, get a good education, find a good job, earn more money, and eventually become wealthy. It sounds logical. After all, if wealth comes from money, then earning more money should make you rich, right? Not exactly. Because if income alone created wealth, the richest people in the world would be doctors, lawyers, executives, and highly paid professionals. Many of these people earn enormous incomes, yet very few of them ever become billionaires. Why? Because income and wealth are not the same thing. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you own. And that difference changes everything. Think about it this way. Imagine two people. The first person earns $500,000 per year. The second person owns 10% of a company that eventually becomes worth $10 billion. The first person has a high income. The second person owns an asset. As the company grows, the value of that ownership grows. The owner can become worth hundreds of millions or even billions without working more hours. This is where most people miss the game. They focus almost entirely on increasing income. The wealthy focus on increasing ownership, and ownership scales in ways that income never can. There are only 24 hours in a day. You cannot work 1,000 hours tomorrow. You cannot sell the same hour twice. Time has limits. Ownership doesn't. This is the difference between workers and owners. Workers earn income by trading time. Owners earn wealth by owning assets. One path depends on hours. The other path depends on growth. The wealthy understand this. They don't just ask, how can I earn more money? They ask, what can I own? That question changes everything, because ownership can continue creating value long after the work is done. This is where Elon Musk's story becomes interesting. Many people assume he became wealthy because he was paid massive salaries, but that's not what happened. His fortune came from ownership. He owned shares, lots of them. When Tesla grew, the value of his ownership grew. When SpaceX expanded, the value of his ownership grew. When investors believed those companies could shape the future, the value of his ownership exploded. Notice something important. The growth didn't come from Elon working twice as many hours. It came from assets increasing in value. That's a completely different path to wealth. Now here's where things become even more interesting. Most people think wealth is built by earning money and spending what's left. But many wealthy individuals think differently. They view money as a tool, not a destination. When money arrives, they don't immediately ask, what can I buy? Instead, they ask, what can I own? That mindset shift sounds small, but it changes everything. One mindset turns income into expenses. The other turns income into assets. Unfortunately, most people become trapped in a cycle. Earn, spend, upgrade lifestyle, repeat. Every raise becomes a bigger car, a larger house, more expensive habits, and before long, income increases, but wealth barely moves. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it quietly destroys wealth-building potential. The people who build wealth think differently. They focus on acquiring assets. They focus on ownership. They focus on long-term growth. They think like owners. Now let's be clear. The lesson isn't that everyone should become the next Elon Musk. The lesson is much simpler. Think like an owner. You don't need to own Tesla. You don't need to own SpaceX. You don't need billions of dollars. But you can start asking better questions. What am I building? What am I owning? What assets am I creating? What investments am I growing? When the world looked at Elon Musk's trillion-dollar fortune, most people saw a giant number. I saw a lesson, a reminder that wealth isn't built by collecting paychecks. It's built by collecting ownership. Because in the end, wealth isn't determined by what you earn. It's determined by what you own. If you enjoyed this lesson, subscribe to Fintrophy and join Mr. Fin for more wealth-building stories.